Hi guys, Bran here and welcome to the definitive Xenomorph add-on tier list video. I made one of these a month ago-ish, but as you guys found out with the Tokyo Ghoul update, along with the base kit changes that came through with the Xenomorph, also came very sizable update to the Xenomorph's add-ons. A lot of these add-ons are different, and as a result, I need to do an updated version of that video. Before we get too ahead of ourselves, I do want to go over my tier list rankings because I don't only do the letter S through D, but I also do little monikers under them that way you know generally why they're in this tier. S is best, so this is the best add-on or best add-ons that you should be running on this character. A is great. Typically these are good add-ons in terms of helping you win your games consistently. B, they're alright. They'll help you win a lot of your games, but you may notice some noticeable flaws here or there that may make it slightly inconsistent, but generally good picks overall. C is niche or underwhelming, meaning that these add-ons really only function with a specific build or gimmick going on, or generally they're just kind of mid. And then D is bad, meaning that you are actively hurting yourself by running these add-ons and you should just avoid them entirely. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Y'all want to see something neat that's not a meme? That's right. For this add-on tier list, Xenomorph no longer has any bad add-ons, just less helpful add-ons. If you told me a year ago I'd be sitting here with the Xenomorph with no bad add-ons, I would probably not believe you, but here we are. So speaking of those add-ons that got dramatically changed that used to be in the bad tier, we're going to cover Light Wand, which actually goes into all right now. Light Wand's former effect was that it increases the temporary downtime of remote flame turrets whenever you exit a tunnel by 1 second. With the update, it is now up to 3 seconds, which doesn't sound like a very substantial change, much less to take it from a bad add-on all the way to an all right add-on, but let's go ahead and talk about it. So if you guys don't know what the downtime is, the quote-unquote downtime for turrets when you come out of a control station, I'm sure you've noticed if you've come out of a tunnel, you've noticed that the turrets go into this little boop, boop mode where they're hunched over, they're lightning sparking with the electricity, and they're not firing at you guys. And they have to sit there for a while before they come alive again and actually start firing at you. The point of Light Wand was to extend this mode. Initially, this was because while in the PTB for the Xenomorph, turrets were actually invincible during this mode. So the idea was with old Light Wand is that you could pop out of a control station and potentially try to get as far away as possible from these invincible turrets using this add-on to try and like skirt away. But it was only 1 second, so it didn't really achieve that job. And since the turrets were invincible, you couldn't really sit by them and break them. Then when it hit live, Light Wand still kind of didn't have a use because now it's switched that, well, since turrets aren't invincible during deactivation mode anymore, and you kind of want to break your turrets almost the moment you see them, yeah, you just smack them. If you run into a turret that's currently deactivated, you just break it. So this add-on kind of lost its value when it went from PTB to live, and kind of was one of the Xenomorph's worst add-ons for the longest time. But by buffing the duration, it's kind of like introduced a new gameplay use, which is actually fairly helpful. The longer the Xenomorph has been out, the longer people have learned good turret placement. This meaning that turrets are not often placed right in front of control stations, at least when you start to get more and more hours under your belt and face better and better survivors. And you'll find them like 1 tile away or at the edge of a really strong loop that's kind of vaguely far away from the control stations. But with new Light Wand, what you can do is when you come out of these tunnels, by the time you reach those turrets that are actually kind of farther away, whether they be in the tile or that next to a gen that's far away from the control station, they will probably still be in deactivation mode or just barely starting to fire at you the moment you get close now because you have extra time where they're deactivated. This makes cleanup turrets that are placed even remotely in the same vicinity as a control station fairly easy to deal with, even if they're not placed directly next to the control station. And any sort of add-on that helps with dealing with turrets and avoiding them is kind of the name of the game for the Xenomorph, because you want to be in your crawler mode as much as possible. And now with these extra duration that is on Light Wand, you have a better chance of doing this. One of the new combos I found out while testing this is you can run Seal Rations, which we'll get to later, which reveals the auras of flame turrets. So what you can do is see where the turrets are actually placed using Seal Rations and seeing their aura, and then you can run straight at them with perfect A to B efficiency, destination, point A, point B, and then smack it with Light Wand before the thing even comes up or when they just barely started firing, essentially confirming that you will stay in the power. This one actually pretty pleasantly surprised me because I was one of those people that thought that Light Wand would be in the exact same spot, considering that it was only a 2-second increase from the previous version. 2 seconds overall may not seem like a great deal of time when it comes to DBD, but when it comes to the Xenomorph, 2 seconds of time is a big deal, considering that's about the time it takes to just lose your power if you don't deal with the turret right away. So saving those 2 seconds of being able to use it to actually break a turret before it even turns on or just barely turns on is actually a pretty huge deal. And I'm very happy to see this not even in bad, not even in C tier, but all the way up in the B tier. Next up comes an MVP that you guys know that got no changes from the previous version of Xenomorph to the live version of Xenomorph, but it's kind of retrospectively more helpful because of some base kit Xenomorph changes, and this being Ovomorph Egg, which will go into great. Ovomorph's effect is that you increase the charge rate of crawler mode while outside the tunnels by 25%. This has always been a good add-on, especially if you're learning the Xenomorph, because until you learn how to deal with turrets efficiently, you're going to be getting knocked out of your power a lot. So something that just charges your power even quicker while you're topside is very, very helpful. The thing that's always been kind of the downside of Ovomorph is that you charge your crawler mode in the tunnels at 8 charges a second as opposed to 1. So it's always more advantageous if there's a control station nearby to just hop in the control station, run in the tunnels, and move back and forth, because it has to be while you're moving in the tunnels. It's not just an 8-second charge rate while you're there. You have to move. If you're moving in the tunnels, you charge your crawler mode back at 8 times the rate, so you probably should just do that over just using Ovomorph, but obviously you're not always in a situation where you can do that. Furthermore, this is really helpful about good teams that always put down double turret setups, because it's not a question of will you lose your power, it's about when, and this obviously helps you get right back in as much as possible. Why Ovomorph isn't great is because the base kit charges for the Xenomorph actually went up from 100 to 125, and I did some testing over the week that these changes have been out, and I found that the percentile is actually applying correctly. So one of the things we were worried out with Ovomorph is that the percentile perhaps was not applying correctly, and just by increasing the charges that it would actually take longer for this to happen, but I tested it and this is not the case. It is working functionally, so it is just the same time to recover your power with this add-on as usual, because it just applies the percentile correctly. So woo! Divi has been known to in the past to apply percentiles and timers and stuff incorrect from time to time, so I was glad to find out that this is actually applying correctly once the charges actually got increased base kit for the game. One of the next add-ons that changed, which I unfortunately found to be kind of in the same spot that it was before the change actually came through despite the buff, is Ash's Innards, which is going to go into C, niche, or underwhelming. Ash's Innards is that this increases the respawn timer of remote flame turrets by 15 seconds. This is up from 10 seconds before the changes came through. A lot of people are believers in this add-on and really think that Ash's Innards is really good. I had a lot of people in my chat saying you should try new Ash's Innards, it feels better. Despite my testing both on and off stream over the week that this has been out, I cannot seem to make this add-on do anything more than it did before, which was already in a niche and underwhelming place the last time I rated it. Specifically today in my final testing I did, because this is one of the last things I really wanted to test, because I truly wasn't seeing the light here, was apparently one of the ways you can quote-unquote get value from this is intentionally going out of your way to break all the turrets. That way the survivors just quote-unquote don't have turrets for a while. And I did this. I even ran seal rations so I could just see the ore and go run and hit them right away. And despite this, despite being super proactive about going around and breaking all 4 turrets and keeping all 4 turrets broken, by the time I would probably get to the 3rd or 4th turret to break them because they weren't grouped up, the other turret had respawned and that person would be setting up their turret on the other side of the map. And by the time I'd run back and break that turret that just respawned, the next one would be off cooldown. And essentially the scenario that people are painting where it's like, oh, well, if you could just break all the turrets and they don't have turrets for a while, really only basically exists if your survivors are placing turrets poorly and putting them all right next to each other. If you're doing a double turret setup, that's fine. But if you're putting all 4 in one corner of the map, you're creating turret dead zones essentially across the map in other places, which is not a good play. So you're essentially relying on the survivor to like quote unquote mess up here to get the most out of this add-on. It's not bad because it's still a net positive to have the turrets off the board for a longer period of time. When turrets break, they're down for 30 seconds. If they're broken by the Xenomorph, they're down for 60 seconds. So now, obviously, having them be up to 45 and 75 respectively seconds off the board is really, really good. But it doesn't really keep them out of their hands. It just kind of like slightly extends the time it takes to get them back, which is just kind of niche and underwhelming. It's just kind of, it's okay. It's very aggressively okay, and that's about as good as it gets. Next up, we have another add-on that changed in the update, and this being Drinking Bird, which unfortunately still stays in C, which is niche and underwhelming. Drinking Bird is this increases the duration of the killer instinct after exiting a tunnel by 3 seconds. This is up from 2 seconds in the previous version of the add-on. 1 second is not a big deal. This add-on, even before the previous changes, was not great. It didn't do a lot. It kind of mostly is just a learning add-on to help people get less disoriented when coming out of a tunnel and trying to track a survivor that's nearby you. I I know that the base kit range for the killer instinct for the Xenomorph tunnels went up to 16 meters. It used to be 12. So you're going to be getting the killer instinct effect more often, which you would think would make this add-on like slightly more helpful, but it's really only 1 second. It's really only 1 second. So it probably moved up in placement in its own tier of C tier, but it's still C tier because it basically is just the exact same add-on it was before, and it's mostly still relegated to people learning the character and to keep themselves from getting disoriented coming out of the tunnel. It's not actually like super helpful at all, unfortunately. Next up is Semiotic Keyboard, which I'm actually going to be moving into the great tier. If you guys remember my last tier list, I put this in the B tier, just barely at the top of B tier, but it's going to be moving up into A, which is going to be confusing for some of you, because if you guys are clocked into the Xenomorph changes, you know that Semiotic Keyboard did actually not receive any changes. But before we get too carried away, let's go ahead and talk about what Semiotic Keyboard does. Semiotic Keyboard is that this causes generators within 16 meters of remote flame turret to experience the following effect, which is the intensity of generator order reveals its current repair progress to you. If you guys have used the Wraith add-on that's very similar to this, if a flame turret is placed within 16 meters of a generator, you get to know how close that gen is to popping just based on its increasing color. This is a great add-on for macro play and trying to make sure gens aren't popping, which is paired really, really greatly with Xenomorph's tunnel gameplay, because you're both able to track people going to and from gens using the footfalls that are in the tunnels, but also your immense speed while in the tunnels, which that being 18 meters a second. Why is this moved up into great, you might ask, Brand, if it hasn't changed? Well, this is kind of a result of a greater change that's happened to the Xenomorph that I mentioned earlier. The Xenomorph base kit changes included a buff to the Xenomorph's base kit charges for the crawler mode, moving it from 100 up to 125. As we'll get to later, this means that you don't have as much of a reliance on anti-turret add-ons. One of the things that made Semiotic Keyboard kind of costly to run is that it's kind of very relegated to like gen kick builds or builds that focus around popping up on gens to try and pressure them, and it felt very, very narrow in the application that you use it for. I ultimately think that one of the things that made me reluctant to run Semiotic Keyboard is because I didn't want to run it at the cost of a anti-turret add-on. But now that those are not required, there's no reason realistically that you wouldn't want to slap this on besides just other fun add-ons that are also present. I think this one just barely didn't make it into great because of a result of add-on reliance that is now no longer there. So I'm going to move it comfortably up into the bottom of great. Next up is an add-on that didn't get changed, but probably should have, and this being Brett's Cap. This is probably the new worst Xenomorph add-on that just barely avoids being into the bad tier that we already deleted. Brett's Cap is whenever a remote flame turret is destroyed by any means, it triggers the following effect: causes all survivors within 60 meters of its location to suffer blindness for 25 seconds. This add-on is just really, really, really puzzling. So first you have the very, very restrictive trigger state, that being that the survivors have to be within 16 meters of a destroyed turret, which is already a very restrictive trigger state for an add-on, but also the effect it applies is not too impressive, in this being blindness for 25 seconds. Essentially, if this weren't a blindness add-on and people like to run blindness builds, there's kind of no reason for this add-on to exist, and it would just be in the bad tier. Thankfully, I can file it under niche, because if you're running a blindness build, hey, this is a fairly fun blindness add-on that works well with the flow of gameplay you should be performing the Xenomorph, which is breaking your turrets as much as possible. But it's so restrictive that it's basically only for that. Not to mention the blindness just as a status effect is not too great in Dead by Daylight, because even if there are two survivors that are duoed on comms, not even 4-man on comms, but duoed on comms, that takes away a lot of the efficiency of the blindness status effect. So yeah. Next up is a huge, huge change, and probably one of the greatest glow-ups besides one other add-on that we're going to talk about from the Xenomorph add-on changes, and that being Harpoon Gun, which is going to go squarely near the top of great. Harpoon Gun used to be a very niche and underwhelming add-on, and we're going to talk about why here. But first, let's talk about its new effect. Harpoon Gun is while hitting a survivor within 30 seconds of exiting the tunnels, this triggers the following effect: all survivors farther than 16 meters from your location scream and reveal their location to you. This is different from its previous version, which was hitting a survivor within 10 seconds of exiting a tunnel triggers the scream, and that scream only happens if they are further than 24 meters. So the main problem with this add-on previously was twofold. First, it's very restrictive to expect a Xenomorph to almost always consistently get a hit within 10 seconds of leaving a tunnel. Not always realistic. And then once you don't get that, you lose out on any sort of value from the add-on, and it's a purple add-on, so it's a very rare add-on that's very expensive. It's just kind of a mess. Furthermore, having it be 24 meters away or more at which somebody screams, it's kind of like a problem that we're going to talk about later with crew headset. We're like, yeah, I got the info that somebody was over there through the scream, but I really don't have any sort of realistic way to go influence that, especially since the trigger state for this is injuring somebody. You would have to break chase to go get value out of it. But most of these issues have been rectified with a new version of Harpoon Gun. This being now you have 30 seconds after coming out of a tunnel to activate this. So now not only does this give you plenty of time to find somebody and hit them, but it is active for the entire duration of this timer. Meaning that if you hit somebody twice or hit another survivor, you're going to get even more procs of this add-on, which is crazy. That's a lot of really, really good info. Those of you guys who are fans of the perk Gearhead will probably actually like Harpoon Gun a lot, because it's kind of like Scream version of Gearhead, except on Xenomorph, just as an add-on now. Because just hitting people within 30 seconds, which is a fairly long time after coming out of a control station, you just get this constant info of where people are. And that lower range of 60 meters means that you're going to be getting people close to you and far away from you. So not only do you get macro knowledge of where people are, but if somebody's like, you know, hovering around for a save, or they were lurking or ratting, you're gonna hear them, and you're gonna be able to see the bubble if you were looking at them, and you're gonna be able to go straight for them. So with 60 meters is not that far away in the grand scheme of things in Dead by Daylight, so you could very easily go after a person within 16 meters that you see on the screen. So they basically just fixed both the issues this add-on had, which was its very restrictive trigger state, and also the effect being kind of because you couldn't really act on the info that you got. Not only do you have a very, very lenient activation state, you can activate it multiple times, and the range is very, very lenient as well, allowing you to have both micro and macro pressure with this add-on. This add-on is great. This add-on's amazing. Honestly, Harpoon Gun is probably like a top 5 add-on now. It might be like 4th or 5th, but it's a top 5 add-on now. Like, it's legitimately that crazy and that good. Even on a character like Xenomorph that has a wealth of base kit information, it's just it cuts out all the time investment it takes to get that base kit info. So it's just like, I don't know, it's just a very well performing add-on. It's just really great. I love this add-on now. Next up, we have an add-on that is generally just kind of underwhelming, but I'm going to move it into the bottom of good, and that being Parker's Headband. Parker's Headband this gives a 5% haste status effect for 3 seconds after exiting a tunnel. This add-on formerly was in the C, which is niche and underwhelming tier, and now it's going to be up into the B and all right. And you might be thinking, Bran, again, why is this changing? Because this add-on received no changes. Parker's Headband's issue is that 5% haste is not a lot of haste, and 3 seconds is not a lot of time. So while coming out of a control station and being fast is a good effect, the numbers are so low for both the duration and the haste that it essentially just like doesn't matter too much. Like, it needs to be tuned up. Either the duration needs to be longer or the haste needs to be longer. But you may be asking, well, then why did you move up into the bottom of B? Well, like we just mentioned and talked about, Harpoon Gun is a very, very good add-on, probably a top 5 add-on for your character now. And what is this add-on's trigger state? Hitting somebody very, very shortly after exiting a control station. And what does this add-on do? Parker's Headband. It helps you go faster when you exit a control station. Are you seeing the vision? Specifically for its immense and awesome synergy with the perk of Harpoon Gun, this one has just barely climbed its way out of the niche and underwhelming. Because when you run these two together, you make Harpoon Gun shine. Realistically, outside of that, add-on's not too helpful, but when you're running those two together, you get so many activations of Harpoon Gun, it's crazy. Thanks to its extreme synergy with a top 5 add-on, I can't feel comfortable keeping it in C tier. Carrier, unfortunately, is still going to hang out down in niche and underwhelming. I'm actually going to put it below Drinking Bird just for this fact that the control station Killer Instinct got buffed when you exit a tunnel. The problem with Cat Carrier is whenever a remote flame turret knocks you out of crawler mode, you get undetectable for 30 seconds. This add-on is just very, very questionable for multiple reasons. First, it requires you to lose your crawler mode, which is like the antithesis of what you do on Xenomorph. The point of Xenomorph is to stay in your crawler mode as much as possible. So the fact that it is making you intentionally lose it and become just a 115 alien lizard with hand and no special abilities it's not worth it. It's almost never worth it. Secondly, the status effect that it grants, undetectable, is actually not too crazy helpful for the Xenomorph because the remote flame turrets come with motion sensors inside them that track the Xenomorph for 41 meters, whether they're on the top side of the map or in their tunnels. Meaning that if a survivor is paying attention, they're able to tell that you are coming as long as they have a turret even vaguely nearby. As long as they hear that beeping, they know somebody is coming, essentially ratting you out from any sort of stealth perk or add-on. This add-on is still fun, so I can't really call it bad, and you can run kind of like a reverse get the drop on them kind of like play style that like, oh, well, I didn't expect him to have undetectable, but it really is just niche to that and underwhelming otherwise, which is kind of like the whole point of that tier. So, yeah. Ripley's watch similarly did not receive any changes and will maintain its spot as being a niche and underwhelming add-on. I think I'll put it above Cat Carrier because at least it's helpful for new players. Ripley's watch causes remote flame turrets to self-destruct after knocking you out of crawler mode. This add-on is basically just like a training wheels add-on, and that's about it. It's just kind of there for people who really don't want to learn the Xenomorph counterplay and just kind of want to hang out on the character without guilt or shame. But like we talked about with the Cat Carrier add-on, is the name of the game is Xenomorph is to stay in your crawler mode as much as possible, and this add-on kind of like unfortunately encourages you to lose your power by encouraging you to be lazy about dealing with turrets, because like at least they'll pop on their own afterwards, which is not the point of the character. It encourages a very, very bad habit. In addition, flame turrets also break on their own in a multitude of other ways that aren't this add-on anyways, so I don't know why we're adding even more methods for the turrets to break on their own when they already do that to some extent. It's just, it feels like you're overlapping something that turrets already do to cover for a mistake that you shouldn't be making, because you shouldn't be letting turrets break you out of your power consistently. It just feels like an add-on that was made for people that don't understand how the character works and like to pretend they do. Next up is the Improvised Cattle Prod, and this is an add-on that also similarly received no changes. I'm going to put that probably at the bottom of all right. Improvised Cattle Prod is whenever a generator is completed for 15 seconds, you see the aura of any survivor within 10 meters of a control station, and they are revealed for you or to you for 15 seconds. Improvised Cattle Prod is not a bad add-on. It's all right, which is the name of the category, but it just barely makes it all right because this only goes off 5 times a game, so you're not going to be getting this effect very often. And despite the fact that it only goes off 5 times a game, it is also limited by the range of people by control stations. As we've talked about before on multiple videos and guides and tips and whatever stuff about the Xenomorph has a wealth of base kit information. They get 16 meters of killer instinct when they're exit a tunnel. They get 16 meters of footfalls in the tunnels. They get 16 meters around while they're in the tunnels. So they just have one of the best base kit info kits in the entire game of Dead by Daylight. So to have a info add-on, much less an iridescent, a very expensive add-on as an info add-on, just kind of like, it's a little redundant. The only benefit here really is that it's aura, so you can go for some like funny shots with the tail attack if you're tracking somebody through a wall with Improvised Cattle Prod's aura reading. You also have Lethal Pursuer, which can extend this aura reading even longer if you get it, which can have some fun with that. But other than that, it's just doing something you can already do with extra time, using the character's own base kit. It's just a little too redundant for me to put it any higher comfortably. Next up is an add-on that thankfully got no changes coming through with new update to the character, and that being Self-Destruct Bolt, maintaining its place as one of the best Xenomorph add-ons. Self-Destruct Bolt increases the vaulting speed while in crawler mode by 30%. This makes Xenomorph an absolute beast in chase. Xenomorph is already a very, very impressive killer when it comes to chase, with their tail attack being able to circumvent window vaults very, very well. But I'm sure if you guys have realized, there's a lot of things survivors can do to make windows even more frustrating. There's a lot of windows that are god windows on certain maps that are extremely frustrating, like Mother's Dwelling, Garden of Joy, stuff like that. And having Self-Destruct Bolt really shuts those windows down because you can vault through the window at Mach speed and catch up to them before they can use the God window again. I've also found this add-on is amazing for playing Shack, because even if somebody drops Shack pallet on the outside, if you vault outwards and you vault back in and they're vaulting in, they're not going to have enough time to literally vault the pallet back to get back outside, because Self-Destruct Bolt, your vault speed's so quick, you can go out and back in and then tail attack before they can dodge, which is just Any character that can play Shack while down, awesome. And this is the add-on that allows you to do that. This add-on also pairs extremely well with most of the vault perks in the game, like Bamboozle, Fire Up, Spear Anatomy, Dark Arrogance, and it makes you even more of a force to be reckoned with Chase. This add-on is cool. Next up is Cereal Rations, which is similarly going to go into the great add-ons. Cereal Rations is an interesting one. Cereal Rations is the add-on that shows you the aura of deployed remote flame turrets for 3 seconds while you are inside the tunnels. This add-on is great because, like I said earlier, with the base kit changes to Xenomorph, allowing you to go from 100 charges to 125 base kit, this means that you don't need to rely on anti-turret add-ons as much, meaning that you are able to run more flexible add-ons. One of these being Cereal Rations, which was mostly regarded initially as more of like a learning add-on to help you learn generally where survivors like to place turrets. Now this is even better because now the fact that you don't have to rely on anti-turret add-ons to do this for you, Cereal Rations allows you to get a good gauge of where flame turrets are placed and allow you to be more proactive about going and breaking them. Like I said, with some other add-ons here, survivors are learning more and more how to place flame turrets better, doing double turret setups or placing them in longer loops or placing them further away from control stations. They're getting better at placing flame turrets, which I'm happy to see. So if you see where they are preemptively on Cereal Rations, it allows you to build more of a plan around how you're going to deal with them. In addition, Cereal Rations also helps out a lot of other add-ons to be better that got buffed during this patch, like Light One. Great combo to run with Light One because you see where the flame turret is placed before you even come up, and then you run up and smack it before it even becomes active. A good combo there. Cereal Rations allows you to see potentially where somebody placed a flame turret nearby a control station, meaning you can fly out of the tunnel, break it, and then go get value at a Harpoon Gun by hitting the actual survivor. Cereal Rations also pairs really well with another add-on that's really, really great. They got a big change that we'll talk about here soon. But basically, Cereal Rations has really, really good synergy with a lot of the buffs that came through, not only with the base kit, but the other add-ons as well, which improves its score in terms of an add-on use. Next up, this one kind of disappointed me a bit, and this one being Crew Headset. Crew Headset is this increases the detection range of survivor footsteps while inside tunnels by 6 meters. So base kit for the Xenomorph, you get 16 meters of footstep reading while in the tunnels. What this does is increases a 16 meter range all the way up to a 22 meter range, which is really crazy and really out there. This is one of Otz's favorite add-ons to run on this character because of all the info it gets you. Although the issue with this is that the Xenomorph doesn't really have a way to really act on that information right away a lot of the time. It's kind of RNG based. You just kind of see somebody 22 meters away walking away from you, and they may be close or far away from a control station depending on what map you're on and where you are currently sitting. You can't always convert the info that you get into an action, so while it's good from a macro sense to know they're over there, it doesn't always convert into immediate micro play. So it's kind of a very restrictive add-on in a lot of ways in the way that you play it. What I thought would be really, really helpful with this add-on is that they increased the Killer Instinct range when you pop out of a tunnel to 16 meters up from 12, which is what it was before. There was a gameplay loop you used to be able to play with Xenomorph to determine like the exact location of where a survivor went just by using the info and the numbers that you had. When the Killer Instinct was 12 and the footfalls were 16, you could see the footfalls in the tunnel within that 16 meter range. And then you would pop up out of a control station nearby. If you got Killer Instinct, obviously they got closer to you. If you didn't get the Killer Instinct, but you saw the footfalls still, because they last for 2 seconds after you exit a tunnel, you knew they went away. And even if they didn't currently have any footfalls, that reads to you even more that they got outside that 16 meters. That gameplay has been removed. The Killer Instinct range and the footfall range are now the exact same. They're both 16. This brings this back, Crew Headset does, are allowing you to do that with 22 meters versus 16 meters, but it kind of just plays out the same. It kind of just plays out the same where like, yeah, I know they're over there, but I can't necessarily act on it. It's a little bit more RNG based. So the same things that held it back before keep it where it is now. I still think it's a very good add-on, especially for the cost it is. It's only a yellow add-on. It's just that it's mostly a microplay add-on and not necessarily a microplay add-on. So it kind of has a gap in its use. Next up is probably one of the biggest add-ons that got changed when it came to the previous version of the Xenomorph to the current version of the Xenomorph, and that being Emergency Helmet, which is actually going to go down into great. But don't panic. Don't panic, that's still top 5. Don't panic. Emergency helmet now is this increases the resistance towards remote flame turrets before being knocked out of crawler mode by 15%. This is a nerf down from 35%. The reason this happened is, like I've said before, the Xenomorph's base kit flame turret charges went from 100 up to 125. The reason you ran emergency helmet before is that way you could literally tank turrets and break them before they could burn you out of your power. Now, I'm happy to report to you, like I did in these changes first went through, that you don't need a single flame turret add-on to be able to break turrets base kit, even with your lunge. You just break turrets all the time as long as you're very, very careful about it. So emergency helmet's niche has been kind of diminished a little bit, especially with the fact that the add-on of this add-on was mostly focused on tanking turret flames to break things, which you can do now just base kit already. This add-on is actually very, very helpful now if you're learning the Xenomorph, because the window to break a flame turret with your lunge is so narrow that even if you look away for like half a second, you're going to get burned out of your power. So this is still good if you're still learning the new timing to do that, because being able to break a turret base kit with a lunge is not something you've been able to do before. You would always get broken out beforehand. This is a great add-on to help you stick with that. And this add-on is still great, right? Because once again, what's the name of the game with the Xenomorph? It's to stay in your crawler mode as much as possible. And this still does that. 15% is still a lot. I believe the number is like 143, I believe. It's like something like that. It's just a lot of charges. That's a lot of charges where you get knocked out. I was testing with this within the week, and it was really funny because I would run straight up to turrets, and my bar wouldn't be even to half when I was under the effect of the flames. Like I wouldn't even get to halfway through losing my crawler mode, which was really funny. This is a really, really good add-on, but I don't necessarily seeing it be at all necessary anymore. If you still want to like turbo sweat and go on like a win streak, I can still see this being like useful to stay in your crawler mode more often, but like other than that, it's not required. And honestly, you have earned over years of add-on reliance to run something else than emergency helmet. So by all means, pick something else in the top 5. Next up is an add-on that received no changes and the new version of the character, and that being Kane's helmet. Kane's helmet is just that when you hit a survivor with your tail tech, that applies mangled for 70 seconds. It is just the go-to, very, very simple, easy, sweet. I hit character with my power, and now it applies mangled that a lot of characters have in Dead by Daylight. Mangled as a whole, as a stats effect, got pretty heavily nerfed a while back, making its effect timed, meaning that if you don't get value out of this within 70 seconds, it's like nothing happened at all, which makes the effect overall not very great. This, in combination with a lot of new perks being buffed, like Resurgence and stuff like that, means survivors are probably just healing quicker than you can do anything about anti-heal anyway. So it's not really worth running. It's still good. Like, it's still just like free slowdown and heals if somebody chooses to heal through it, or at the very least, like a little bit of delay while they wait for the mangle to go away. But it's just that the mangled as a stat effect is just not what it used to be. It's kind of like a nerf that happened to the overall game of Dead by Daylight, not necessarily this add-on particularly. Next up, we have the tried and true, good old reliable Lambert star map. Lambert star map reduces the attack range of remote flame turrets by 2 meters. This is going firmly in S tier now, as undoubtedly a head and shoulders above every other add-on for this character. Name of the game as the Xenomorph is to stay in your crawler mode as much as possible. Obviously, by removing some of the range of the flame turrets, bringing them from 10 meters down to 8, allows you to avoid the turrets more often and get closer to them to break them before they start applying flames to you. This is even better now because, like I said, your crawler mode went from 100 charges up to 125. So now you have even more wiggle room to get closer to a turret before Lambert star map turns it on to actually smack it and get it out of the way. There was a lot of debate back in the day if Lambert star map was better than emergency helmet, if emergency helmet was better than Lambert star map. Now it's not even a debate anymore because Lambert star map, it still stands head and shoulders above every other anti-turret add-on. But I do want to reiterate this: you can break flame turrets with your lunge base kit now. Like I said, the window is very narrow, so running something like Lambert star map is very, very helpful still, because if you weren't paying attention for like half a second, you don't actually make that. Obviously, if the flames don't turn on until later, that's less flames on you, which is better and allows you to get that hit more securely. But I do want to reiterate, this is not required anymore. It really isn't. Unless you're wanting to sweat Not required at all. You can run any combination of these add-ons now, and you are going to be fine. Literally, anti-turret is not required anymore. I'm very happy to say that. So I just really want to reiterate, yeah, Lambert Storm is still the best add-on this character has, but not at all required. Next up is what I believe to be the biggest glow up of any add-on that is on this tier list, and it's going to shock you if you haven't paid attention to my testing over the last week where this add-on's about to go. Molted Skin. I'm not kidding you. I'm not fibbing. I'm not joking. Molted Skin, the former worst add-on in the game for this character, A tier. Going to explain why. So formerly, Molted Skin, after deploying a remote flame turret, survivors suffer from 3% hindered and 3 seconds of exhaustion. Why was this add-on so terrible? So typically, the idea of having hindered and exhaustion, the point is this makes you do worse in chase if the Xenomorph finds you, because you can't use your exhaustion perks and you're slightly hindered. But the trigger state being that after survivors deploy a flame turret doesn't make sense, because if you catch a survivor just placing a turret down, they're already a sitting duck. They already were experiencing hindered from carrying the turret, so they're going to be probably out of position, not in a good spot, and you can just hit them anyway. So like the denying of the exhaustion and the hindered didn't matter, because most of the time survivors were sitting ducks because they had either had the turret in their hand and got hit, or they had just placed it and were probably in an awkward place where they were kind of not near a resource. Furthermore, the fact that it was only 3 seconds of this means that if somebody placed a flame turret and you weren't immediately around to get value out of this, you just didn't see it happen. The effect would happen and pass without the Xenomorph even being there. So it was as if this add-on just didn't do anything at all. This was literally like a dead add-on slot if you ran it. Let's go ahead and talk about the new version and why is it A tier. The new version of a Molted Skin, after deploying a flame turret, survivors suffer from only the exhaustion status effect for 30 whole seconds. Now that's what I'm talking about. After deploying a flame turret, which is something that these guys should be doing if they want to counterplay the Xenomorph correctly, they're going to be exhausted for 30 whole seconds. 3 seconds is not enough time to find somebody after they plop down a flame turret, so you go after them, have a chase with them, so you can deny them their life, their balance, whatever happens to be. Now 30 seconds is more than enough time to go find somebody that placed a flame turret and have a chase with them, especially if you're running it in tandem with the buddy add-on that's right next to it, Zero Rations, and you could quite literally see the turret being set up from down in the tunnels. You go, oh, that person for sure that placed that definitely has exhaustion. I can definitely go chase them. I tested this and I literally couldn't believe it, because like I said, this used to be the Xenomorph's worst add-on, and after doing this, like, I'm not joking or exaggerating, I had maybe like 2 or 3 exhaustion perks go off in the entire time I've tested this over the past week. This is both on and off stream as well, so there's some stuff that you guys didn't see if you guys watch me over twitch.tv/TheMrHeadache. But I literally only had like 3 exhaustion perks go off the entire time using this add-on. Another gnarly thing you can do with Molted Skin is you can run it with Mindbreaker, Fearmonger, for those of you who played during the free version of the perk, which is when you touch a gen, you apply exhaustion and blindness while they're touching the gen and briefly when they get off of it. So that person walks over, places a turret down, they're exhausted for 30 seconds. And usually what you can do is you can go get on a gen and sit on it to wind down your exhaustion because you're not moving. But then you go and you touch the gen and now you're exhausted there too. So basically you're like, okay, turret exhausted, touch the gen exhausted, breathe exhausted. Like, it's just like, you just can't escape the exhaustion. And it's like really funny. Usually I'm not one for overlapping stats effects, but just like the double whammy is so hilarious with that on now. I never thought I would be in a situation in 2025 or any year where I'd be like, yeah, I'm recommending Molted Skin to people, but here it is in the top of the tier list here. It's just kind of wild. All right, next up, we have an add-on that also did not receive any changes, and that being the multi-purpose hatchet, which is going to go still into niche and underwhelming. Multi-purpose hatchet is after attacking with a tail attack and hitting someone, you get hemorrhage status effect until they are healed. The benefit to this, obviously, is that hemorrhage is the effect where if somebody gets hit and they stop healing for any reason, after starting their heal, the healing bar goes down. The benefit to this, compared to other perks or add-ons that apply this effect from other characters, is this is not timed. Most hemorrhage effects are timed these days. just like Mangled is. This one is not. So that's pretty cool. Other than that, that's about it. This add-on is green, which means it's very expensive to run for just Hemorrhage, because Hemorrhage is not that great of a status effect. I don't know, that's just kind of it. It's just like it's an underwhelming status effect. It's green, so it's expensive. Basically outside of anti-heal builds, like gimmick builds that you go for, this is not going to see much use. So unless you're going for an anti-heal build, this is about it for this one. Lastly, next up is Acidic Blood, which also received no changes. Acidic Blood, this is I like to call it the content creator add-on, because it's a very flashy add-on, but once you think about it, it's actually not that great. This is when after you exit a control station for the next 20 seconds and you get stunned, a survivor loses a health state. If they are already injured, they go down into deep wounds. This sounds crazy on paper. You're like, all I have to do to injure the survivor is to just get stunned? That's insane. That's crazy. This add-on is busted and stupid. Until you think about the killer you are playing it on. You are playing the Xenomorph with the tail attack. You know, the thing that is designed by nature to go up and over pallets. The thing that is designed for somebody drops a pallet in your face, you attack them over it while they are dropping it. The tail attack that is designed after you drop the pallet, you try to crouch, I can go up and over the pallet and bonk you anyways. Yeah, they put an add-on that's anti-pallet on a character whose power is designed to be anti-pallet. A 9, maybe 9.5 times out of 10 that you would get acidic blood value by getting stunned, you can also just get the tail attack and not suffer a stun, which helps you in chase more than acidic blood does. This add-on is almost completely redundant. If it weren't for how freaking cool it was and how fun it is to have it go off and the fact that it can apply deep wounds, it might go even lower on this tier list. But realistically, it's a completely redundant add-on. You can already injure people at pallets. You could already do this base kit. I don't know why this add-on's a thing. I mean, I guess it makes sense from like a lore perspective, but like realistically, like, ugh. All right, so that is the most up-to-date Xenomorph add-on tier list that is out there right now. If you're looking to see, are all these buffs for these add-ons actually worth it, or are they not? Here's your one-stop shop for all of that. There's a lot of great big shakeups, like Molted Skin being way better and worth it now, Harpoon Gun being way more worth it and better now. A lot of the learning add-ons became more universally helpful because of the base kit changes. It's just... This is probably the best add-on variety that this character has ever had. If you've ever been looking to run some of Xenomorph's other add-ons and are just tired of having the base kit suffering that is running Emergency Helmet and Lambert Star Map all the time, there is no better time to try out some of the others add-ons. I would very highly recommend that you go through the A tier in specific and try out all of these bad boys right there, because all of these felt great to run on the new version of the character, and I could not recommend them more. Yeah, what do you guys think? Is there anything you disagree with, or is there things that shocked you? I'm sure Molted Skin being up there is kind of a wild one, but hey, what can I say? It works. It just works. Let me know down in the comments below. Other than that, hopefully this video helped you, and hope you have fun and good Xenomorph games out there. Other than that, I will see you guys in the next video, and if I do not, I will see you when I see you. Goodbye.